Relationships aren't always sunshine and rainbows. Just like in nature, you can't have rainbows without a little rain.
Journey with us
Shani Goodson.
and Dr. Sunjata as we share stories and insights about our thriving, unconventional love life and our unique take on relationships and consensual non-monogamy. Welcome to season 2 of SunShan Rainbows.
Season 2, episode 1.
Episode 1, season 2. Y'all wanted us back. We're back.
And we wanted to improve some things for y'all. You like our little background? You like our new intro?
Yeah.
T-shirts
Love
are
y'all
in the
tees.
in their new intro as well.
Yes. You know, we got to send love. We got to be a representation of love and all the love we have for y'all and all the people in the world and the love within this polyamory relationship dynamic. We just got to represent it.
LoveYallTees.com.
LoveYallTees.com if you dig it. So how you feeling about season 2 getting going?
I'm excited. Got good feedback the first time, so
Yes.
ready to give y'all some new topics, some new stuff, some
Yes.
new insights, hopefully.
Yes. Thank you for all the love. Thank you for all the support, all the comments on the videos and all the platforms that we're on. The love has been amazing. You really inspired us to, definitely bring season 2 back. So here we
And
are.
check us out on Instagram, SunShan Rainbows. That's our handle there. Check us out on sustainablesolutionsmedia.com. We write there.
Yes.
We have sustainable relationships. So if you're into learning more about this polyamory thing, go check us out there as well.
Yeah. And we're on TikTok at at Sunshan and Rainbows
Yep.
on TikTok. So
Yeah.
check us out, follow us, like us, comment, engage with us on all the platforms, y'all. We appreciate y'all.
So what are we talking about on this episode?
A topic that a lot of people always have questions about:
There are lots of questions about this topic.
parenting and children and polyamory. How does this impact your kids? Is a question I get often. What about you?
How does this impact your kids? It's definitely a question I get often. So yeah, we're gonna get into that. Let's talk about that today. Parenting, how we talk about this with our kids. Do we talk about this with our kids? Stuff
Right.
like that.
Yeah. And also, both of us are divorced, so how this impacts our co-parenting dynamics. We're going to touch on that a little bit as well.
Yeah, we both have children, but we don't share any children. He has children from his marriage, his former marriage, and I have children from my former marriage. Um, and we have to kind of bring our families together.
Mm.
So we have a little added dynamic, I think, to talk about today
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'll let y'all know. So I have 3 kids with my ex, and they are 14, 12, and 7. And it's 2 girls and a boy.
Okay. And I have 2 children with my co-parent slash ex-wife. I have a 16-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son.
Yeah. So that's 5 kids that we up to 5 kids are usually in the house at
Yeah.
any given moment.
Yeah.
Usually no fewer than 3 are here. So, there's logistical things involved with like who's eating what and who's hanging out where and who's cleaning this and make sure you clean up after yourself and
Mm-hmm.
who's taking who where
Yeah. Who
and
needs a ride or who needs to be picked up from here or there? Can we consolidate? Maybe, pick up 3 in one outing or drop all of them off at the mall. It's like always a lot of logistics going on with our shared parenting dynamic,
yeah,
with our blended family dynamic.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those times where I'm really grateful for a specific alignment that we have. Like
Mhm.
we're both more on the conscious, gentle parenting.
Collaborative parenting, as I like to call it that at times as well.
Yeah, like more about like relational, concentrating on the relational aspects of the parent-child relationship as opposed to like the power dynamics. Like I would say a lot of people kind of feel like a sense of ownership over their children in traditional parenting, and we both kind of tried not to, perpetuate that
Yeah,
in
yeah.
our parent-child relationships.
Yeah, that was one of the cool things when we first met,
Yeah.
that we had in common. Like I personally had been on my conscious parenting journey since probably about 2012 is when I literally found the book called The Conscious Parent by Dr. Shafali. And it totally rearranged how I thought about parenting because all I knew is I wanted to do things differently than I saw in conventional parent child relationships, as well as the way I was raised. I didn't want to beat my kids. I didn't want to rely heavily on punishment. But at the same time, I was struggling. And so when I was struggling with my daughter when she was a toddler, and I didn't know what to do. And I just Googled some things and I found conscious parenting, and I've been studying it. I was studying it for probably almost 10 years before you and I met. And then when we met, and I brought up that term because that's important to me for people to know, because it really can cause tension if, you're sharing, time with each other's children and you parent differently in that way. It's a stark difference.
Mhm.
So it was cool that we had that alignment early on.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know, I feel like I've been a conscious parent since before I was a parent
Mm,
because I used to challenge my mom's parenting as a child. Like I would be like, why can't you just talk to me? We don't have to do it like this. And I would say since my first child was born in 2010, I was like, no, we're not doing this the way other parents do. Like parents would suggest to me to let my daughter cry it out. And I was like, no, I don't think I want to do that. So conscious parenting kind of has always sort of come naturally to me. I also didn't want to be raised the same way that I was raised. Like I didn't never wanted to hit children. I don't want to yell at them either. That one is more a self-control thing, I think, than a philosophical thing.
mhm.
Um, but I've been working on this for a long time. I've been in conscious parenting groups probably since like 2016, 2017, because that's really how I learn research,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like I dive into like real world research. That's typically my pattern. So I would say probably 2016, 17 is when I started realizing this was a thing.
yeah.
This was like a philosophical parenting framework.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, that's kind of how I got here. And it was really exciting when you mentioned conscious parenting. I always say that was like the first thing that he said that I was like, hold on, I'm interested. And that was at the first time we ever talked. So
yeah,
I was very excited about that, about you.
yeah. Well, and it's I can say that, and I'm in conscious parenting groups on Facebook as well, and I'm one of the few men. So that was probably one of the things that surprised you to hear a man talking about conscious parenting. Would you say that's true?
I have heard some men like talking about it and aspiring to it, but not
Okay,
in my dating life. I will
okay,
say that.
okay,
Like in my dating life, no, it's been mostly traditional parenting. But my ex
hmm,
is more of a conscious parent. Like
okay,
he tries really hard not to parent the kids. He tries to parent them in a similar way. Like he definitely doesn't hit them. He respects them as people. So we're aligned. My ex and I are aligned in that way.
cool, cool. Okay, and so one of the biggest things that people want to know around parenting is like, how did you introduce the idea of polyamory to your children? You want
I
to speak to that first?
we probably have different like I feel like did you actually sit your kids down and like tell them what was going on? Like so
Yeah.
I feel like he could probably start because
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
So for me, for those of you who watched season one, you know that the reason why my ex-wife and I divorced is because of me deciding to live into my polyamorous truth. Once I realized that I was struggling within a conventional monogamous marriage context, and began to do my research and understood, learned about this thing called polyamory, and I realized, what, that's what I'm feeling, that's what I'm struggling with. um and it was a journey. Go back to season one if you want to know all the details, but it was a journey. It wasn't like a quick decision and then we were divorced. Um and with that being said, when we finally separated and divorced, it caused a lot of upheaval, in our extended family, and my children would at that time would spend a lot of time with their grandparents, my ex-wife's parents, um, and my mom as well. But more particularly, they would hear things that her parents would be saying because they were hurt, they were upset. Their daughter was upset and hurting over, our relationship ending, and there was just a lot of, stuff going on. And it was a really, really hard time. And I remember one day my daughter said to me, because my kids would tell me, they would kind of like stand up for me um, when they would hear these conversations. And one time my daughter said to me, Daddy, I don't know why everyone's so mad at you for having a big heart. And the reason why she said that to me is because, yes, very early on, I communicated with them. My daughter was 9 at the time, and my son was 5. And I let them know why me and their mother's relationship was, was ending. And I told them, and that's how I explained it. I just said, your daddy has a big heart, and I have the capacity to love more than one person romantically, and I don't feel right. I don't feel normal if I bottle that up, if I contain it. And, so I said something like that to them. And my daughter, she, at the moment, that's something she said in the moment, so basically, you have a big heart, daddy. And I'm like, yes. And that's, how I introduced it to them, and I initially explained it to them. Hope you're enjoying this episode. Let's take a quick break to tell you about something that we've been working on.
We're excited to announce our course and coaching program, Relationship Bliss, where we help polyamorous people transform their relationships into highly compatible, peaceful, deeply aligned, and blissful partnerships.
We do this by sharing techniques for effective communication, deeper connection, and conflict resolution. The program offers a self paced course with 5 learning modules, 25 training videos, and live virtual coaching sessions with us, Shani and Sunjata.
Learn more at go-growdialogue.com.
Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
Do you think that so I think that's an age appropriate way, right? Like I think that's really important that when we talk to our children about any adult matters that we're doing so in an age appropriate manner.
Mhm.
And I think that's a really like age appropriate way. Have things changed over time? Like now that your kids are older, like how much more like how have your approaches to talking to them about this changed at all?
Well, my daughter is 16 now, my son is 12. So it's been 7 years. And what I will say is that I was always conscious about checking in with them, as time went by. Um, and other than that, just checking in with them about how they're doing. Are their needs being met? Do they want to talk to me about anything? Is anything weird? Because I didn't hide my relationships with them. So as I transitioned out of my marriage into being, a single co-parenting dad, and then I started dating when relationships, became more solidified, whether they be like friendship, strictly platonic, or romantic. My children just started being used to being around my community of people. And I didn't specify whether the context was romantic or platonic or whatever. However, they could pick up on cues. They saw who might spend the night, whose houses we would go to more often, more than not. And they just were around it. They were just immersed, in the dynamics. And they never really had any questions about like or any even commentary about like why are you doing this, or that's weird or strange. I never heard anything like that. They just went with the flow. They wanted to know who someone was. I would tell them who they were, and then they just see me interacting with these different people.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess it's similar for me. Polyamory is more like a personal thing for me. My marriage did not end because of polyamory or because I wanted to be polyamorous. I found polyamory after my marriage ended. So, I was busy explaining the divorce to my children at the time. I was busy explaining that to them. I wasn't so much explaining what I was learning because, frankly, it really wasn't their business. At that time, I wasn't sure. I was still studying, I was still researching. And kind of similar to what you said, like they just see, your kids just kind of see what's going on and who you hang out with and who's here and who's there. And because I lean more toward relationship anarchy, my kids meet people who are in my life, whatever context that might be. But my kids are not like, central to my personal life in that way. My kids are, if they have questions about what I'm doing, I definitely answer them. But I feel like my kids just see the people in my life as friendly adults, friendly adults who they can get a gift from on their birthday, friendly
Yeah.
adults who are willing to listen to them about something or pick them up from school sometimes, or
Mhm.
that's just what they see it as. And my
Yeah.
mom had friendly adults around me as a child too. She had friends, and she had friends who were male and female. And then I had, like I had your auntie, but they're not really your auntie because like they're not really your mom's sister. I think we all grew up with people like that. So
Yeah.
to me, I think my kids see the people who are in my life more as a village.
Yep.
And I'm not romantically involved with everyone who my kids come into contact with. And I don't think they care whether I'm romantically involved with someone or not. Like my kids don't know about my sex life. So
Right.
it's just, it's whatever.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will say they have had a question before. One time I was dating man other than Sunjata, and he would come to the house. This is before we had moved in together.
Hmm.
So, he might come to the house one evening for dinner instead of Sunjata. And so they might say something like, "Where's Sunjata?" Like, because they're just wondering where he is, but not like, "Where is he? He's the one that belongs here." They're just like, "So where's Sunjata today?" And I'll be like, "He's at home, he's at his house. I'm having dinner. We're having dinner here today." And they'd be like, "Okay." So it's never like caused any confusion or issues that I know of.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I do recall you telling me like your kids would title me as your boyfriend to their
Mm,
peers.
that's true.
Yeah.
Um, I would say that's been it's been a long time. I feel like since that's happened. Like their friend might ask, "Hey, who's that with your mom?" And they'll be like, "Oh, that's my mom's boyfriend." I feel like
Hmm.
they do that for convenience.
Yeah, I was gonna say convenience and
Uh,
having something to say when people ask that question. They don't know the
yeah.
nuance of their relationship anarchy, anarchists and they're this, that they don't have the context. So it's easy for them to just say boyfriend, girlfriend.
So I mean, one time I actually went to a couple of school events with another somebody else. She's a woman, so I went with a woman, and my daughter's friends also asked who she was,
Yeah.
and my daughter would say her girlfriend or her friend, and like she just means girlfriend, like girlfriend, like that's her girl who's a friend. So
Hmm.
she just says that's her friend. I thought they might have moved on to saying that about you too, I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think that a lot of times when people ask these questions, they're coming into this idea, they're coming from a mindset of their idea of morality and the ways they were raised. And I feel like a larger percentage of people that grew up in the eras that we grew up were raised in like religious households.
Yeah,
And I think that's another thing that's different is that neither one of us are raising our children to be religious. I
true.
personally was raised to be very religious. And I feel like when I get that question about, how does this impact your kids? What do they think? People are thinking like is it this is my assumption, but it feels like they're thinking of it from their mind of their teachings and like it goes against, their upbringing and their morality and the things that they were raised on what was right and wrong in terms of like, religious morality and judgment and all those things. And it's like that's another thing that our kids don't have those hangups because they weren't raised that way.
And I think like in a broader adding on to what he just said, like in a broader context, it's about colonialism and this idea of like pushing the nuclear family on us
Yeah.
is a really recent development in human history. This idea that children have to grow up with two parents, and you and your parents in your house with your car and your things. And I've actually written about this, like a whole series about getting away from the nuclear family, because this is not, in my opinion, how humans were meant to be raised. Like, I think humans were meant to be raised in extended families
Yeah.
with
It takes a village.
village, with community, with having several people who you can call on to help your kids do different things. Like, you are not the only influence. I don't even think parents should be the greatest influence over your children. Like, so many more important people or so many different important people can come in and pivot your child's life one way or the other. And so I think that extended family is more what I'm going for. And since I don't come with extended family, naturally, genetically. I don't come with a lot of extended family. I feel like this is a good way for me to try to like create that
Yeah.
for my kids. So I think it's a big part of it is about moving away from the nuclear family as well as like the religious ideals and the
Yeah.
morality.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a tough one. There's so much that's interrelated, with this polyamory, consensually non-monogamous journey. So much is interrelated in terms of a lot of our like anti-oppressive ideals and belief
Yes.
in our liberation ideals, and beliefs in that way. And we're kind of touching on a few of those things now, but yeah, and you talked about colonialization and colonization and those mindsets and all those things that people project onto us and our in the way we live, that for children, children, they learn based on their environment. And for our children, nothing that we do is abnormal because that's their environment. That's what they've been seeing. Even though for both of our children, they didn't start that way, but they're still young enough where they were still able to adapt easily. And we didn't raise, we were already like outside of raising them within those conventional, ways. We talked about conscious parenting, but we gave our children a voice. We talked about the importance of being themselves and
And
being
not
authentic and
having to follow the conventions and the standards that are set forth for them by society. Like, I think
exactly.
we're showing them that there's other options too.
Exactly. And we had already that had already been in motion.
Yeah.
With my unschooling background, for example, my kids had already it had already been in motion that their father uh, you know, looked beyond conventional means for, what was right or wrong or what success, looked like.
And don't worry, like our kids are still getting lots of conditioning, okay? Monogamous conditioning everywhere they go. At
Everything they
school,
watch.
everything they watch, everything they listen to, every love song is
Hmm.
monogamous, okay? Like the plot of pretty much every romantic movie is
Hmm.
monogamous.
Hmm.
The way their teachers talk to them, the way their friends talk to them, they're getting plenty of monogamous conditioning. So
Yep.
this little bit of non-monogamous conditioning that they're getting here, I really don't even think it's like that
Yeah.
different. They're
And
still
all
going to choose what they want to do,
Thank you. That's what I was going to say next. The beautiful thing about that is they'll know they have options. Instead of only thinking one way is the way.
like we did.
Like, yeah, exactly. And I wish I knew that I had options as well. And I'm so grateful that my children are being raised in an environment where they can have the, awareness of all the options or many options.
The freedom to be themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that.
And it feels like it's so many things that I feel like people say that are ignorant around those things. Like, you know, protect the kids. They don't need to see all that. Like, see what?
What do you think we're doing in front
Yeah,
of the
like see
children?
what? Like, see you see us like have loving, caring relationships with people. They see that anyway. They see that with our siblings. They see that with our
Friends?
friends, our parents, our grandparents, our aunties, our uncles. Our children see us having loving relationships with lots of people. So one person, whether it's romantic, platonic, that doesn't really matter to children in those ways. They just see love in adults engaging and being in relationship and no matter the context.
Doing nice things for each other, and just having
Supporting
like
each other.
supporting each other exactly because just like in any type of relationship you probably have, we keep the private parts of our relationship private.
Right.
And that goes not just from our children, but from other people also.
Hmm.
So it's not like our kids are, exposed to, trash or
Or anything,
debauchery, if you
yeah, or
will.
anything from season 1, episode 8, sex and polyamory.
Right.
They
They
don't, they
don't
don't,
see
they
any
don't see all that.
of that. Okay. The threesomes, the more sons, they're not involved in that. I promise you. And as far as like, I feel like my kids don't ever ask me any questions. I'm trying to think if they've ever asked me any other questions besides the one we've talked about. Not really.
What my kids have asked me? Where is so and so?
Right?
If someone that I used to spend a lot of time
It's
with
true.
isn't around as much, they'll say, "Where is that person?" And I'll be honest with my children. I'll just say, we're not spending as much time with each other as we once were, but we're still friends because if they were around a person, me and that person are still connected. We're still friends, even if we no longer see each other as much or we have a romantic connection as a part of our dynamic. There's still a platonic connection, and they see them every once in a while now, and just not as much as they once did. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering, sometimes I wonder if we'll get the type of question like, what about having adults like in and out of your kids' lives? I feel like
Hmm.
that's a question that
That's a
people
great one.
sometimes
Let's address
ask.
that.
But I will
I
say,
just did, I guess.
you did kind of,
Yeah.
but I will say, like, I don't my like the children will meet people sometimes like in passing, especially if they come by the house, but I don't find that my kids get very attached to anybody unless they're around all the time. And if they're around like all the time, then the chances of us just transitioning like that are so slim because of the way that I approach relationships, and because I'm not into this like zero sum game.
Hmm.
I get a chance to still keep people in their lives even if the romantic connection transitions. So I don't feel like my kids are feeling like rocked.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they're like, "Oh, I was really close to that person and now they're gone." I
Yeah.
can't imagine that hasn't happened.
That goes, yeah, I think that goes into that whole nuclear family is the right way to do things mindset as well, because the reality is people come and go out of each other's lives all the time.
Right? Your kids
Like
have different teachers every year.
that's exactly what I was just about to say. Like literally they spend a whole school year with teachers if they're in conventional schools, and then they move on.
Yeah, and sometimes that teacher quits. Okay, does your like how do you tell the teacher, "Hey, don't quit because my kid might miss." So
Yeah, my
yeah,
kid's attached to you or they might
right.
miss you. Like that is a regular part of life. We have, different relationships for different seasons of our lives. There's nothing abnormal about that in any other context. But all of a sudden, when it comes to the whole like romance element, people get these strange, weird like expectations and like, you know, um, control elements that they put onto that dynamic that things have to be a certain way
I think also because
that I find weird.
I think they also think that because we're polyamorous, we lack commitment in our relationships. Like they think that we're not committed and that all of our relationships are transient and fleeting. And that's not the case. Like a lot of relationships have good longevity. By good, I just mean they last long, and they, ha- there is commitment. There is like loyalty, if you will. So
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
do think we still get to model that for our kids just multiple times over.
Yeah, yeah. That reminds me of a conversation
Mm.
that I had with my co-parent one time, a tense conversation. It was probably, you know, 3, 4 years into our separation and divorce that my children started mentioning a new name because whenever someone new came into my life that I started spending a lot of time with, to the point where I would introduce them to my children or they'd be around when my children were there, my children go home to their mom, how'd you do what you do this weekend? That name would come up. So now their mom's like, hold on, I heard this name for a stretch of time. Here's a new name. So I remember one time when, we were having a tense conversation and she, said to me, I don't want my kids around all these different women. And I remember saying to her, like pretty much what you all just heard us say for the last 10, 15 minutes. I said, I don't like what's wrong with that? Like, what's wrong with more love, more care, more support, more village? Like, why is that like, why are you saying it and like it's a negative? And if we all think about the conditioning, behind that stigmatized statement in that way, there's a lot to unpack there. And I can share with you all that, my co-parenting journey was really rocky, from the start. Like when we first separated and divorced, my co-parent didn't even look at me for like a year when we would exchange the children. She was upset and she was hurt. And I understand why. Um, and I can say that I'm grateful that as the time has gone on, things have incrementally gotten better. Um, you know, it wasn't just like straight up. It was, you know, like a roller coaster or up and down on the graph, but it eventually it's continued to progress in terms of, year and a half, she started looking at me again. A year and a half into it. And then like 2 years in, we were able to have a conversation and laugh with each other. 3 years in, we're able to have a caring embrace, like a hug, which was really amazing. And we continue to share certain holidays, with the children, like Christmas and, our birthdays and Mother's Day, Father's Day. So we always had these times that we would come together around the children. And then again, there would be some bumps along the way. Um, I'm thinking about the driveway situation. One time when she was upset that Shani was with me when I came to pick up the children, and she's like, "I don't want, people in the driveway, and you don't bring those women to my house," type of thing. We weren't even in the driveway. We were like on the street near the house. But
Yeah.
anyway, um, I remember that distinct going back to the original conversation around I don't want all these women around my children. I said to her during that conversation as well, I said, you know, you can meet them. They're not just she said random women. I'm like, they're not random women. That's exactly what she said, random women. I'm like, they're not random. These are people I care about. They care about me. So, you know, they also care about the children and they treat them really well. Again, extended family, village, etc. And I was like, you can meet them. She said, I never want to meet, you know, any of them. I remember she said that. So fast forward, you know, as things continue to progress up the graph over the years, um, you know, just recently, in 2024, you know, Shani and I moved in together, and she had already met another love of mine a couple of years ago, just by happenstance, and it was cordial. And she didn't say anything to me. She came to my house to get the kids, and she was there. And she came in. She was polite. They said hello and some chit chat, and then went on her way. This is the person that she's heard that person's name for many years because she's been in my life for many years. And but that was their first time meeting. So then fast forward, you know, 2024, Shani and I had been in each other's lives for 2 years at that point, and then we decided to move in together. And you know, now in my co-parents' mind, it's like, well, y'all live together. I need to meet this woman.
Yeah, I feel like it legitimizes us a little bit in her mind also, you think?
I think
Or it's like my kids are gonna be around
her a
her.
lot.
I
That's what I
have a
think it was.
choice.
Yes. I think it was more so my kids are going to be basically living with this woman part time, you know, so I need to know her type of deal. And, you know, she came to the house and Shani and her and my co-parent met and it was cool. It was all, you know, cordiality and friendly and giggles and it was cool. And, you know, I would say that's continued. You know, she comes every time she comes over now, she comes in. She doesn't just drop the kids off more often than not, she'll come up to the door and, you know, step in the house and there's friendly conversation. So, you know, we've come a long way.
Definitely, we've come a long way, and it's good. I'm glad that she feels safe because I can understand when you have that kind of conditioning, how scary that can be. You know, random women. You don't want somebody to mistreat your child. So, like, I
Yeah,
totally understand. These things are hard to unlearn, and
yeah,
co-parenting journeys are hard. Mine has been hard also. So, and he has helped me in those ways as well. But my co-parent lives a bit farther, so we don't have not a bit, a lot farther, so we don't have as many like bumps to face in that area. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the journey that y'all have been on, and I'm grateful for the journey um that has been to get to having this like blended family. I feel like this is not something you see every day. I don't know of very many other, polyamorous like people who have blended families in the way that we do. So
yeah,
I'm pretty like grateful for that. It's fun.
yeah. We took a trip recently, a family trip. My children, my co-parent, and my mom, and my daughter had the idea, like, can we borrow Shani's SUV? Because there'd be more space than my four-door car with just two rows. The SUV has three rows. And you know, Shani said yes. And, you know, so my co-parent is riding in this Shani's car and you know, there was no issues, you know, she embraced it, you know, that's that whole idea again, village,
Great.
community, more support, more resources, more everything.
Yeah.
And you know, so it was beautiful. It was like, you know, that and a couple other situations like with the homecoming and
It's like I think that one's irony, the one with the driving, because it was like, don't be in my driveway, right? Like with your car. But now it's like we moved on. Now we can actually be not just in the driveway, in the car that was in the driveway.
right,
So it's
right.
like there's a little symbolism there.
There is. On the street, not in the driveway. We weren't even in the driveway. That day when she said that, we were on the street, like, but anyway, that's another story. But
No, definitely grateful for where we are
yeah,
now.
grateful, man. And my co-parent, I'm so grateful for her journey. I'm so grateful for the work she's done
Mm,
to kind of like you said, unlearn, but also just come into a place of being at peace
mhm.
and acceptance with who I am and accepting me and accepting my new family. And it's been beautiful. You know, she's nice and sweet to Shani's kids when she sees them. when they come outside, or when they're around when she comes inside. And it's just, I would have never imagined that we would have gotten to this point when she wasn't looking at me for a whole year, or when she was, saying mean things about, like the examples we just gave. So shout out to my co-parent. I'm so excited, but
Yay.
time heals all, as they say, and I've really lived that. Like, time has really healed things, and we're in a beautiful place right now.
So I think we can talk a little bit about how we make our blended family work or try to make our blended family work. One of the tools that we use.
Yeah, yeah. Great time to transition into
Segment.
our segment for today's show, which is our relationship tools, and one of them being check-ins, relationship check-ins.
So this is actually a segment. I don't think we've done tools before. I don't think did we do that last season?
We
I
may
don't think
have.
so. But we're going to talk a little bit about a relationship tool that we use with each other, and you can use it with your kids as well. It's just relationship check-ins, basically trying to hold us um, like accountable to the values that we have, that we share with each other, and just making sure that we are still in alignment and feeling good, because blended family dynamics can be complex.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so this is actually one of the things that we teach and train in our relationship bliss program, is how to have consistent, regular relationship check-ins to ensure that we remain aligned and accountable to who we say we want to be for one another, and the people around us, that are impacted by our relationship. And the reality is, we could talk about these things once, but life happens, and it's easy to get away from our best intentions because the winds of change are always blowing us from left to right, and all the social things that's going on in the world, and just the day-to-day life ups and downs and struggles of something breaking and needing to be fixed, and all these just various things. And next thing you look up and we're just all out of balance and out of alignment, and these check-ins have been amazing. So you want to talk a little bit about how the mechanics of it?
Well, I will talk about a little bit about frequency. So
Yeah.
typically, um, I would say on average, we're doing check-ins like once a month. But sometimes if life circumstances necessitate, we'll have them more often.
Hmm.
So like every other week, up to a week. I would say up to every week. We've even had times where we've set time aside every day for a few days in a row, to check in about things, to talk about things, just to make sure that everybody's feeling heard and understood. So frequency is, once a month at least, and then more as needed. That's
Hmm.
typically what
Hmm.
we do. And we sit down and basically we look at our values
You
that
put it on a
we.
calendar. Let's say that part.
Oh, that's true. We
Yeah.
do. We put it on the calendar.
Hmm.
And then if we need to move it, we move it on the calendar. Like we
Hmm.
don't just let it fall to the wayside,
Yeah.
like, oh, we have things to do this week, forget the check-in. Like we'll bump it to the
Hmm.
next week.
Hmm.
So basically we sit down and we, look at our values, get grounded in our values and our relationship culture statement, which we can, we talk about in our training program, and probably we'll talk about in some future videos here on this channel now that I think about it. But we get grounded there. And then we start talking about misalignments that might have surfaced. We also talk about alignments,
Yeah.
things that we feel good about. So it's a time for us to check in about how we're feeling on the whole spectrum,
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
how good we're feeling to places where we feel a little bit more misaligned.
Yeah, and I love the fact that we call it alignment awarenesses in terms of like what's going well. So we have our five shared values. We also have our relationship bliss statement, and we're able to look at that and say, well, how are we doing? We're doing this well when we talk about the like culture we want our relationship to feel like. Um, and we'll say, this is going well when this happened, or this just feels good. We're always checking this box with each other, so we'll take time to acknowledge that, kind of like give each other a pat on the back. And
And I
we
think
always start that way.
I think it encourages us to make note of that in
Mhm.
real life.
Yeah.
Like sometimes in relationships, we have a tendency to only make note of the things we don't like.
Hmm.
But when we start with alignment awarenesses, like I want to have alignment awarenesses when I go to the next check-in. So whenever he does something and I'm like, oh, I love that. I'm like, ooh, let me put that in my alignment awarenesses. And it makes me be more grateful for the things that you do naturally.
Yeah, yeah. And this all got started because, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur my entire pretty much even starting in my teen years. I got into the whole entrepreneurial businessman thing. And one of the things I noticed is that, like, whenever I would start a company, we would do this, create your vision statement and your mission statement, and then we would have like business meetings and things. And I got to thinking, like, if I'm willing to put that much time and effort and energy in terms of being intentional in my business life, why shouldn't I do this in my personal life? And that's kind of what gave birth to this process that we're talking about, because I decided that my personal life was just as, if not even more important than my business life, and I want to be intentional here as well.
Yep. So after we do our alignment awarenesses, we'll start to surface any misalignment awarenesses, any places where we feel like the way we're showing up and our practices are not aligned with our relationship bliss statement and our values.
Hmm.
Um, Now, we put those misalignments on the board and we will look at whatever misalignments we've talked about in the past and we actually track them. Like we track them, we iterate them, we make adjustments to them, and we move them along a track. So basically, we start with like, well, we're trying it out. Then it feels like, oh, we're getting good at it. Then it feels like, okay, now this feels integrated. So basically, it's like a scrapbook of all of the ways that we have iterated our relationship. It's basically like a scrapbook of all the agreements that we've ever put into place and all of the ways that we have addressed any types of conflict or any types of tensions.
Yeah. And I love that it's something that we can always look back on,
I like that
and
too.
because we keep a running record of it. Again, you could forget a lot of things, or I forget a lot of things with all the different things that go on in life. So that's it's really cool. This process has been, I think it's just been so amazing in terms of keeping us, feeling like our relationship is as magical as it's been, you
Right.
know.
It's like a little relationship map. It's like, oh, look, we used to have that used to be something we talked about. Oh, we're so past that now.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
kind of really fun to get to see your evolution as, in as a connection there.
And
So
we get
that's
to
really
see the
fun.
work we put into it. People talk about relationships or work, and it's true. But it's not just work. Like, I'll just say we're intentional about the work and the ways that we do it with this process. So really, really grateful that you've been willing to adopt the process, because I brought it to Shani, and she's taking it and helping to make it even better. So
And
really
we can do
grateful.
this with kids,
Hmm.
we both have done this with our kids separately. It's
Yes.
actually on our agenda to sit down with all the kids and do it together, like have our own. So we would still have our own, like me with my three kids and him with his two kids, they would still have their own culture statement because that's its own relationship. But then we could have one all together as well
Hmm.
that we could come and check in about, how's it going with the shared spaces in the house?
Hmm.
How's it going with, feeling like between our 12-year-olds possibly, how's it feeling about like boundaries? Our 12-year-olds sometimes butt heads, but also are like this. It's like a very complex relationship.
Yeah.
So like it's a good thing for them to do. So you can bring your kids into this too. Again, it's all about making it age appropriate and making it like, relevant to y'all's dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we've given them a lot for this episode. You got anything else to share?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for being here with us once again. We hope that you all took away some nuggets, and leave us your comments, your questions in the comments. And until next time,
Yeah, we're so excited to be back with y'all. So until next time,
love y'all.
love y'all.
Peace. That's a wrap for this episode of SunShan Rainbows. We hope today's conversation sparked some new insights, deep reflections, or just gave you a fresh perspective on love and connection.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop us a comment, send us your questions, or share your own experiences. We might even feature them in a future episode.
And don't forget to subscribe to SunShan and Rainbows on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And if you're vibing with us, please like, comment, share, and leave a review. It helps others find the show and keeps these conversations going.
Want more Sunshine and Rainbows? Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Sunshine Rainbows for daily insights, behind the scenes moments, and updates on future episodes.
Until next time,
We
we
love
love
y'all.
y'all. Peace.